Shonen manga time, boys. Let's go. So I'm back after a week of not being here. Sorry about that, by the way. I tweeted it out up here. You can look. I just had some things going on that kind of stopped me from really being able to make a video. All sorts of just shit going on in my life. I tweeted about it. Follow me on Twitter if you want to know more. I apologize for not being able to get a video out this week. So I'm talking about both last week's chapters and this week's chapters in this video. I feel like it's sort of my consolation to y'all for that. But before I get into the chapters, we got to talk about comments. We got to talk about the poll, all from 2 weeks ago. So everyone saying stuff is, you got to keep in mind this is 2 chapters ago. But let's start with comments. So we have one from Cross who says, with the Odin flashback, I feel the main issue is more that people genuinely have no patience and can't wait for the story to be told. They all complain about the pacing being too fast and then immediately begin to complain about something not being told to them up front. Granted, most complaints about pacing end up being wonky, kind of like your exposition point. Great chapters all around this week. Also, Agravity Boy is kind of raw. I agree with everything you said until you said Agravity Boy is kind of raw. But it's okay. We'll move past it. So I think there's a really good point here that people think it's too fast, but it's not really. And I think something that I want to kind of stress with these chapter reviews a lot of the time is I think a lot of the sentiment in weekly readers of manga is a new plot point will come in and it won't be fully explained or fully shown because what you're reading is part of an ongoing story, right? The new chapter doesn't mean that this is now the new end point of the story. It means that this is the new part in an overarching story, right? So maybe people feel like Wano has pacing issues now, but when Wano's all done, if you go back and just reread Wano, it might be a completely different experience than it is for you right now. And I think that's something people need to keep in mind more so when talking about ongoing manga that I think a lot of times gets forgotten. So that's kind of the big thing I wanted to stress with the Odin stuff is we don't know, the story's not complete yet. So not that you can't criticize things when the story's not complete, but I think pacing or saying, well, we don't know this yet, or this wasn't explained, isn't a fair criticism you can make when it's very apparent that the story wants to get back to that. There's also this comment from Greenbird who said, about the only way I can enjoy this match in haikyuu more is if Tanaka is playing. Hinata, Bokudo, and Atsumu being on the same team is a dream made manifest. And I completely agree with this. I would also love like Nishinoya and Tsukishima were playing. Like the way I feel about this haikyuu match is it's great and I love it. And like it's phenomenal, right? And I just wish that there was... Well, I don't wish because I know what they're doing and I love it. And we're going to talk about haikyuu a lot more, even though we only have one chapter. But I think that I get why we don't have everyone in this match, but even then I love the idea of just like an all-star match, which is what we're getting. I want to talk more about like kind of this idea, but that's almost most of what I have positive to say about haikyuu, so we'll talk about it when we get there. Tragai says, but here's the deal, flashback did not flash out Scabbards too. I think what he's saying is, it didn't flesh out the Scabbards, but the point again isn't for the Scabbards to get a flashback. It's Odin's flashback, but it's why the Scabbards care about Odin. And why they're going to these lengths for Odin is why we saw the flashback when we did narratively. And that was kind of my point. Not that necessarily the Scabbards need to get flashbacks that tell their whole life stories, but that what we're getting is why the flashbacks care about Odin. Comment from the Weeaboo Club says, okay, idiot loser, SMH. I mean, this is what the what. If we want to look at what what's common is, right? If I scroll down, it's shut up JK Vindig, which, that's also what the what comment, but okay idiot loser is one of the most what the what comments I've ever seen in my life. I don't know why a podcast I'm on is calling me an idiot loser, but it's what. Speaking of the Weeb Club, Craftsdorf commented and said, man, Agravity Boy is really breaking the mold and pushing boundaries with the most ill-fitting and unearned title drop I have ever fucking seen. Which is true, I hate Agravity Boys, but that's besides the point. I agree. Agravity Boys fucking sucks. And now that we've talked about all of the Weeb Club's comment, go sub to the Weeb Club, please. It's really funny, and I think that we're even more so now getting to the peak of our podcast. Like, not the peak, right? Like, I think we're still getting better, but I think we're, like, just as I'm kind of starting to hit my stride, I feel with these chapter reviews, I feel like the Weeb Club is, like, we've really been hitting our stride, and the Weeb Club is pushing. We're, like, moving and grooving, and it's great. We're literally talking about themes. You're one thing, and your love for lollies is so strong that you can't understand themes because we're like, oh, jerking off to lollies. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Like, what? Hello? So go listen to the Weeb Club. You don't have to, by the way, because I've heard people say like, oh, well, I want to listen to the Weeb Club, but I don't watch the anime you're talking about. If you think a podcast with What the What and I seriously talks about the anime that we're discussing, no. It's probably 3/4 bullshitting and making fun of each other, and a quarter or a third, or yeah, a quarter talking about the anime. So don't worry about that in terms of the Weeb Club. We also talked about the poll from last week. Can't forget that. So everyone's favorite chapter was Act Age. Or not everyone's, but Act Age had 9 votes, 30%. One Piece had 5. Dr. Stone had 4. Kimetsu had 3. Haikyuu had 2. And then MHA We Can't Study, Chainsawman, Samurai 8, Mitama, A Gravity Boys, and Mashle all had 1. Which, really fair. Great Act Age chapter. One Piece, also good. Dr. Stone, great. Super good with these rankings. I'm super down with them. I'm glad to see Act Age kind of kicking ass in the polls. So remember, vote in the poll for this week. The way the poll is going to work for this week, because there are 2 chapters, is we're just going to do the chapters that came out on February 9th. We're just not going to worry about February 2nd at all. And I'm doing the same thing when it comes to my rankings. Like when I get my top 3 and my spread of the week, I'm not going to worry about 2-2. I read half the chapters on 2-2 and half of them today. So I think it's just too much to go over, like, mentally, to try to do 2 weeks worth of, like, kind of awards like that. This chapter's already going to be, like, my longest by far. I'm sure you guys can already see how long it is. So I just don't want to, like, add to the length of it and add to kind of confusion. So we're just not going to worry about it. And that's how I'm going to do it for every time that I have to not do a week and do 2 weeks in one. That's just the way we're going to do it for now. Maybe I'll change it in the future, but that's what we're going with now. So now we've gotten most of that kind of housewarming shit out of the way. Oh, actually, also, I should say, because this will have been up by the time this goes up, I recorded a rant. I recorded the rant yesterday as of recording this, but I guess, actually, it should have gone up yesterday or 2 days ago when this comes out. But I recorded a rant for what's Nuxtaku video, or not, I guess it's not a Nuxtaku video, but it's an Ishizoku Reviewers video talking about the situation with that. I put the rant up on my channel. I do want to say in here, and I'll probably put in the description of that video, I don't hate Nuxtaku. I don't know the guy. I don't think that video was very good. And I definitely think the points he was making weren't good. So that's mainly what I'm talking about. But kind of the joke was that I was getting really mad. You know, like I was supposed to be angry and ranting because that was funny. So, I'm not going to hide behind a satire shield because I do stand by the criticisms I made. But obviously, the way I'm saying them is largely exaggerated for the point of, for a comedic purpose. But I do want to say, even though I agree with the criticisms I made, the points I was making were largely exaggerated for a comedic purpose. Now that everything's out of the way, let's jump right into the first chapter with One Piece. So, for both One Piece and Haikyuu, we're only talking about chapters that came in on 2-2. They're both on break this week. One Piece, because it's Oda's regularly scheduled breaks. And we'll talk about Haikyuu. But, so, for One Piece, we're only talking about the chapter that came out on February 2nd. We're not talking about, obviously there was no chapter on February 9th. So, this chapter kind of, I feel like if this chapter didn't kind of, like, change how people who had the complaints about the chapter before, I don't know what to say. One of the first things in the chapter is us just finding out that, yes, there were reasons Oden did what he did, and he wanted to save the people of Wano, and he stands by that decision. So I don't understand anyone who would still have complaints about what happened when now we understand why. It's very clear. I love Kaido's dragon design. I don't like Kaido's human design that much, but he's like a cooler Shinron as a dragon. I fucking love it. I love Kaido's dragon design. It's fucking peak. I can't wait for another Kaido fight. I just want to say that. We also see Oden's using Conqueror's Haki. We got to see a young Shinobu who was cute. Actually kind of looked a lot like Nami. Well, a little like Nami. Well, she looked like Nami. And, all Oda's women look the same, but still. Oden had a great line this chapter where he said, "I don't blame anyone who would lose faith in a fool of a lord." When he's talking about the way people I'm pretty sure this is talking to Shinobu about the fact that people kind of betrayed him or not betrayed him, but lost faith in him after all this. And this is just like, this chapter was so good because we just see more of Oden being like good, right? And we see more of Odin. He hurts Kaido, you know? And why doesn't he keep fighting Kaido? Because he thinks they have Monosuke. Odin's just like the best boy ever. And, you know, we see similarities between the way he is about stuff, the way Luffy is about stuff. We also have similarities. Kaido compared Odin to Whitebeard and Roger. And, you know, I feel like very obviously you're supposed to be comparing Luffy to Roger in the Roger flashback. So it's very clear that there's like a certain type of person that they all are. And yeah, I mean, Odin just continues to be like a good boy. Just the way he saves Shinobu in the chapter where he's like, yeah, you know, I haven't seen her before. I don't know who she is. She's trying to kill me so that she doesn't get arrested, even though the Scabbards got arrested. I was talking to Craftsdorf on Monster and Stream the other day, and he mentioned that, like, you know, there are 11, it's Kaido and 10, or Odin and 10, right? Odin and his 10 Scabbards. And you could even parallel that with Luffy, and right now he has 9 other Straw Hats if you count Jinbei. So potentially we could get the last Straw Hat in this arc as well. Also, we know that Otis said that at some point we're getting a big celebration when the Straw Hats are all together. And if we're really as close to the ending as he says, Wano's the perfect place for that. So it would make sense if we see Jinbei and somehow with however Wano plays out, either Jinbei's the last Straw Hat or if there's one more Straw Hat, they join as well in this arc. Would make a lot of sense. And then we could get a cool spread that mirrors, you know, the spread of Odin and all the Scabbards. We could get one of that with the Straw Hats that's like exactly the same. That's something that I could 100% see Oda doing. That would be fucking great. Right, so that's just something to keep that in the back of your mind over the next 3 years as we read one. The fate of Odin and the other Scabbards is also fucking, like, scary. Like, they're getting boiled alive. Like, that's fucking, you know, I would say that's raw, but it's the exact opposite of raw. It's cooked. So, yeah, I think that's about it for One Piece. Not that there isn't stuff to talk about, but this episode's gonna be long, and I want to move through it, and, you know, this chapter was really good. Like, I definitely like it. It's not the most, I feel, deep chapter to really dissect too much. So, let's go to haikyuu. So, the first thing about the chapter, from the first page, I don't know if it's saying this. I don't know if I was just reading into it too much, and I'm all thinking about this because of Tanaka and manager lady getting married, but it definitely looks like Tsukishima's older brother and Tanaka's older sister might be dating, which would be wild and super cool, and I would love that. But I don't know. I could just be looking into it because they're staying together. We'd have to see more, I think, to really know. Also, they're, like, kind of getting older, and if they'd, say, gotten together around that time, it would make sense that they'd be married already, so I'm not really going to, you know, make a hard-line stance, but I will say that that's possible. One of my favorite parts of this match isn't even the actual match itself, but it's the way that we get to see the whole Karasuno team reacting to the match. You know, we got Tsukishima being a smug asshole, you know, being Tsukishima about how tough it would be to block Hinata's stuff. We get to see later on in the chapter, you see Asahi, Daichi, and Sugawara talking about, oh, like, they're all nutty with their serves. I wouldn't want to deal with them. They freak me out, you know? So you get all this kind of shit that's really, really good. And that's one of my favorite parts is because you get the characters that you grew to love through the series. And even if they're not playing, we still get to see them and their reactions to the game, which is like a different take on them. That's really nice. I really like it. So I said I would talk about it. Look, this game is full of just fucking stars. And it's so great. I love it so much. Because every person in this game, like, they were even talking about it where, you know, I feel like this game should be done on just serves alone. But it's not, because everyone's so good. So even Bokudo's serve, which in the high school part of the manga would have given Karasuno a bunch of trouble, Hoshizumi just, you know, pops it up. And even though we do see, you know, obviously they still score, Ushijima's still a monster, and we see Kiyomi, I think it's Kiyomi. We see his cool, like, witcha spike that has, like, this crazy sick spin on it, which, by the way, fucking cool. I'm glad we finally get to see what made him one of the top aces, and he's so sick. I love it. But we get to see that, like, even though they're all strong and they all have things that make them nuts, everyone else has things that make them nuts. So there's no just straight up, oh, one player is the star because they're all stars, and that's great. I also love that line about just that they're all nasty is so good. Also, the only other thing I really want to point out from the chapter is that Kendaichi and the other guy who were on Kageyama's middle school team are here. And that Kendaichi's playing in Division 2, same as Tsukishima, which is nice. I like seeing that some of them stuck with volleyball, and even if they're not Division 1 pros, they're playing in D2 after college. Really nice. I really like seeing that. It's really fun. Because, a lot of these characters, a whole big thing in haikyuu has been the passion that a lot of them have for volleyball. So even if they aren't good enough to stay in, the top level, it would make sense that they would continue with volleyball because they have such a passion for the game. Alright, I think that's about all I have to say for haikyuu. So now let's talk about MHA. Okay, I'm just going to address the elephant in the room really quickly. I'm going to say my thoughts on it, and I'm going to move on as fast as possible. I don't want to linger on this. First of all, I'm just not informed enough about the topic, and I don't want to be informed enough about the topic to really talk about it. I'm going to talk about, obviously, the villain thing where he was named after, I think, the subjects of human experimentation during World War II. Maybe I'm just a trusting person, but I would like to believe that Jump and Hori were correct and they weren't lying when they said that it wasn't an intentional naming them after someone. They weren't thinking about it. They were maybe going for a pun or something else with the name, and it was just an unfortunate circumstance. If that's the case, I think anyone who's still upset about it is kind of being dumb. They've apologized. They've changed his name. It was a mistake, sure, and they apologized for it. I'm not going to debate whether or not it was a mistake. I don't want to get into that. That's too particular, and I don't want to really talk about that kind of stuff. But I do think it's important to note that they felt that it was important enough to them that they keep people happy and change the name. So people really don't have to complain. What else do you want? Do you want MHA to be canceled? They changed the name. That's all they can do, is issue an apology, change the name. That's the best anyone could hope for. So good on them. They did their jobs. I'm perfectly happy with the direction this has taken. Now I want to talk about why I'm upset that all this happened. Because I'm just going to call the villain Eggman. I think he looks like Dr. Eggman. You can look here. Here's the villain. Here's Dr. Eggman. They're the same. Same exact character. I was going to make a joke about it originally. I was going to have a picture of him, and it was going to be like, All Might pissed on my wife. Thanks to Craftstar for giving me the joke. But I was going to, do a whole thing like that with the Sonic Adventure 2 fan dub. It was going to be funny. But I don't even want to anymore. I don't want to deal with it that much. I'm just going to call the villain Eggman. I don't think he has a name because in the most recent chapter, they just call him the Good Doctor. So I'm not the best at remembering the chapter distinction because I read both chapters in a row today, even though I had read haikyuu a week ago. So I'm just going to kind of talk about both of them. And I'll remember which ones I like. I decided my top 3 of the week based on the chapters alone. But when I talk about both chapters, I'm just going to talk about both of them at once. So, new villain. He looks like Eggman. I think it's funny. I like his design. I liked seeing Class A together. And there were some Class B people, but I like seeing the students together. And I like that their job is just saving the civilians. I think it fits because, we see in the MHA world, they don't really want to make students fight villains. So having them just be, they evacuate civilians. Perfect use for them. Makes a lot of sense. It keeps them out of the conflict. So when pro heroes die in this arc, which is definitely happening, we don't have to deal with, now students are dead, and maybe even if students do, everyone feels worse about it because they were supposed to stay out of the fight. I like that idea. So that's really good. I think that's just about it for the chapter. The first chapter. Because I guess I remember these, so I can make the chapter distinction. The only other thing was was Endeavor being scary, and it ended with Eggman making funny face. This week's chapter, there's some stuff I really liked in it, actually. For example, we see Present Mike getting really mad about the way Eggman used his quirk, and the way he used the abilities that he has. I like that. But I felt like it was overshadowed by immediately Eraserhead being cool as fuck. I love Eraserhead. He's so fucking cool. He was spooky, he was cool. Good boy. So, something I thought was interesting is that, he's making new quirks and giving them to Shigaraki. Is he just giving Shigaraki a fake All For One? Because if he is, that's pretty exciting, right? Because then it's even more so it's All For One versus One For All. It also mirrors, now that Deku has multiple quirks, it would make sense Shigaraki also does. Even though, previously it was this man has multiple quirks versus All Might's one. Now that Deku can use him, I'd like to see a fight between Deku and Shigaraki where they both have multiple quirks and are using them in really cool ways. I like that idea. So I'm super okay if Shigaraki gets more quirks as well. Alright, we need to talk about the most important part of this MHA chapter. The reason MHA was good this week, more than anything else, is that this bunny lady is so good. Oh my god. Bunny hero, yes. Yes. She's so good. Oh my god. Yes. Great spread of her too. And then the only other thing I really have is that it was really funny to me how both of the chapters ended with Eggman making the exact same scared face at getting cornered by a pro hero. It was just funny that they both ended like the exact same way. I really like that. I think that's about all I have to say for MHA. So next is Black Clover. So I have some friends who read Black Clover, and one of them was talking to me, and he was upset about the newest chapter because Yuno comes back after dying. So I have almost nothing to say about the first chapter we're talking about, because it really is just showing even more, you know, the demon guys use their big spooky demon powers, make their magic stronger, and they killed Yuno and some of the other people. And so then my friend was, and I didn't expect Yuno to die. I didn't think Yuno was ever going to die. But my friend, and I'm sure there are going to be other people who are like, well, Yuno died and came back 4 pages into the chapter. But I don't think Yuno was, like, I wouldn't have liked if Yuno died here. I think it makes more sense that, like, the whole point is just showing how much stronger these guys are than Yuno, who's one of the strongest characters in the series. So everyone comes back. Or not everyone, because they still lost half. But even, like, the characters that we kind of know and, like, mattered in the fight before came back. So it's not even that big a deal that half of them died. But whatever, half the people in the team died. Okay. But I like that happening because the spread of Yuno yelling in, like, anguish is so fucking good. Actually a great spread. I mean, I think Black Clover can slap sometimes. I really like certain parts of Black Clover, and I do think that some of the newer stuff hasn't been as good, but I do think that that page, like, specifically, was fucking A++, and I really liked it. The chapter ended on a spooky boy in a crown talking about Yami, which is cool. I hope we get a Yami fight. Not that I think Yami's gonna die, but if, you know, they want to do the classic having your mentor character die, this may be a good arc to make it happen now. But I do actually want to talk about what I think the arc is going to have happen, like, almost completely. Because the guys talk about humanity's evil, all humans suck, all humans deserve to die. And that just kind of tells me that what the arc is going to be is they're all like, humans suck, humans are evil. And Good Boy Ast is going to be like, no, I love humanity, I love my friends. Y'all use your demon powers for evil, but I use my power for my friends. And then he beats his ass. And as long as it ends with some friendship shit, I'm down. I'm down to clown, you know? I love friendship shit, but that's just what I think it's going to be about, is, like, these guys consider everything as evil, and they use their powers for evil, and obviously Asta isn't that, so that's how he's going to win. That's all I have to say for Black Clover, so we can just move on to Kimetsu now. So, Kimetsu no Yaiba is a manga that exists, that is in its final fight now. Like, the final fight is moving. We're in the last, you know, what did they say, 58 minutes until dawn? So we're in, like, this final stretch of the fight. And there was some stuff that I liked. I like the way Tanjiro put the pieces of the dance together, and that it's, okay, you combine all 12 dances, or all 12 forms, to get the 13th one, right? And even though it ends with him putting all 12 together, and he's like, I don't have it yet, or I think he said he just needed to keep repeating all 12, that probably means he's still missing something if he's doing it, and so I'm sure he'll figure it out. And I'm sure it's going to have something to do with Nezuko showing up in the fight, you know, because we saw her a bunch of chapters ago now running over to Tanjiro, so I'm sure she'll get there. That'll be when Tanjiro is able to use all 13 forms. The art in this fight is so fucking gorgeous. I love Gotoge's art, and this fight is so good looking. I actually really like it. The way that, like, Tanjiro's flipping and he was avoiding Muzen's attacks because Muzen was hit with a poison that ages him, what was it, 50 years every minute, I think? Something like that. So he's aged 9,000 years throughout the course of the fight. Crazy, ridiculous shit. But it's cool because that's a way that previous characters and previous sacrifices have now gone in to Tanjiro being able to defeat Muzen, as well as, you know, he's getting more weak because he's been fighting the other demon hunters. So it's not just Tanjiro shows up and beats him, right? There are reasons for it. It was a team effort. It's just that Tanjiro's the person at the end who's here to deliver the final blow, not necessarily that he did it all himself. So there's the last stretch of the fight, like, clearly. And I hope this means it's the last stretch of the manga. Let me look, because the Jump app... So the Jump app even says, with the little notification they send every week when the chapters come out, final battle, epic clashes lead to all-out war on Demon Slayer. So, you know, it should be the final battle. It should be the end of the manga. I would be really worried and really upset if Shueisha and Jump kind of pressured the manga into going with its insane popularity right now, especially in Japan. But I think they have enough restraint to know, okay, it's over, we'll let it end, we can do something else. So, it's really good. I'm really happy with the way this fight's kind of playing out now, and I'm curious to see it continue. I think that's about all I have to say for Kimetsu, so we can just move to Promised Neverland now. So Promised Neverland, we didn't have a chapter 2, but we have one this week. So I only have one chapter of Promised Neverland to talk about, which is kind of funny that it ended up, if I had done a chapter review last week and then done one this week, I wouldn't have had one yet where I've talked about all of the current running manga in Jump, but because I ended up doing a 2-for-1, I can talk about all the shit that's currently in Jump, which is kind of cool. I think one of my favorite things about Promised Neverland, and something I think makes it really good, is that every like arc that happens, just about, the kids go into it with a plan. And even if we don't see the plan, you know, you see they have that plan and they're just following it through. And I like watching it because it's cool seeing them. Like, part of the fun of the first arc was watching them create the plan. But now we don't really need to see them create the plan. And it's nice to see them just kind of, boom, show up and start kicking ass, right? I love that shit. It's great. So that's definitely something about the manga that I would give positive points to. Also, the faces that Emma, Norman, and Ray made, like their faces of terror at seeing their mom, were fucking palpable. Some of my favorite like facial expressions in the manga this week. They were fucking great. Actually good. And then the last page of the chapter was so cool. It was the epitome of I'm not trapped in here with you, you're trapped in here with me. Oh my god, it was so cool. Emma's so fucking cool. Holy shit. I'm so excited for this arc to play out now. You know, like, that's kind of been my problem with Promised Neverland, I feel, is this arc has been so much all at once that when shit's happening, it's good, but it can still leave you kind of exhausted because there's not any break. But that doesn't mean that what's going on still isn't great. So I still really like the manga. I still really liked this chapter. I would have preferred, maybe better structure in the ending here, but it doesn't mean that what we're getting still isn't good. I think that's about all I have to say for Promised Neverland. That's all I have in my notes. A lot of these manga, by the way, I probably have more to talk about than I normally would, but again, I expect this episode to be kind of long. There are some that I have a shit ton to talk about that we're about to get into, and it's just, when I'm talking about two at once, I almost just kind of want to get through them. I don't feel like I have as much time to go as in-depth as I would like to, so that's just kind of how it is. So, but that being said, that's it for Promised Neverland. Next is We Can't Study. We're already at graduation, and both these chapters make me think almost make me convinced the manga's going for an Uruka end, which isn't insane, and I see where it's coming from. My only issue is if here at the end it goes with Uruka and then doesn't give wrapping up to all the other girls' arcs when it comes to liking Narayuki, because I feel like, so something Nisekoi does, and the reason I'm always going to compare shit to Nisekoi, like harems, is because it's my third favorite manga, and I think it's phenomenal at this, is all the girls, before Raku even decided to make his choice, every girl except for 2 had come to their kind of ending of their arc in terms of loving Raku, and had decided to just move on, except for Marika, but Marika had really moved on, let's fucking be honest. So then even at the end, there were the 2, and before he got with the girl he picks at the end, the other girl had the conclusion of her arc in terms of her feelings for Raku. So I think that if you want to try to make a point that, like, if you want to try to have him pick a girl, even if you want to have him decide now, that's fine. But we still need to see a conclusion to all the other girls in their arcs in terms of how they feel about him. And I feel like it's almost a little cheap to have him pick this soon after Fumino had just committed herself to the idea of being able to like Raku. I think it's almost rushing this ending a little bit too much. If, say, in the next 2 or 3 chapters, he ends up with Uruka and then it's over, we need more time, I feel, to really explore everything with the other girls. And that's the only reason I would say I don't know if he could end up with Uruka, because I feel like that would almost stunt what you could do with the other girls' arcs narratively, right? Not that it's necessarily bad, but that I feel there needs to be more time before we get there, but also it's his graduation day. Like, there isn't that time, even though there really should be. So, let's talk about the chapters. First of all, I loved seeing Naruyuki right after his dad died, where he was just, like, devastated, but he knew that he had to stay strong to support his family. It fucking great. That shit hits me. That shit, ooh, fire. Phenomenal, some might say. And Uruka's such a good girl. Like, she's so great. The way she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna make you smile. And he's like, I'm not gonna smile. And she's like, all right, I'm gonna make your sister smile. And that was kind of the end of the first chapter. So now we need to talk about the most important thing in the most recent chapter. One of the most important things in the manga as a whole. And that is the color spread to this chapter makes me ascend past the level of a normal human being. I don't know what happened, but this color spread has me like 3 levels higher. Like, I'm an interdimensional being now. After having experience and having that color page in my life, I'm not the same person I was before. It's so good. My notes are, God, unga, this fucking color. But since then, been a couple hours since I read the chapter and took my notes, so I've ascended. I'm a different man than I was before this color page existed. It's so good. It's so good. It's like the most important part of the manga. Okay. No, that's not. Let's just keep talking about the manga. So, I always love the joke of Mizuki being a brocon. It's fucking funny every time it happens. Just because the way they do it and the faces she always makes are always really good. So I always give that shit props. Also, I really like the idea that Uruka was the one who taught Naruyuki that you need to work hard instead of just, you're either a genius or you can't do anything. And then the fact that then Naruyuki taught that to everyone else and Uruka throughout the manga, I kind of like that she indirectly taught him and then he on purpose taught them. Great. Right? Because that's almost like what he would be doing as a teacher is learning things indirectly from other people and then directly teaching that to them and to others. Great. Really, really good. Naruyuki he's such a sweet boy, a sweet man. I love him. I love the smile he gives. He's great. And everything, like that entire conversation between him and his dad, it reminds me of a very specific conversation with Nisekoi. It's really good. I really like it. I wonder though, because like the thing that's interesting to me about this is Naruyuki doesn't know the other girls like him as well. And I wonder if there would be a change in how he thinks about it if he knew that. And I think that, like, I want to see him make a choice between the girls as opposed to just a choice of Uruka or not. And I think that's where a lot of this comes down to is, I feel like it would be a little cheap if he only picked Uruka because he didn't even think about Uruka like that until she confessed to him. So I feel like we need to see a choice between the girls as opposed to just a choice of Uruka or not. And so that's something that I think either he decides to decline Uruka for some reason, and then he declines all the other girls except for one, or I think he needs to make a choice. Like, he needs to make an actual choice between them all. I don't think you can just have him pick one. That being said, these last few chapters have made it look a lot like it's taking an Uruka end, which is not what I expected, and I even talked about it at the start of the chapter reviews that I didn't think he was going for an Uruka end, but like now I'm starting to think it might. And not that I think Uruka shouldn't be the one picked, because I think for harems it's important to look at it as a whole once it's done and look at like, does the pick fit in thematically? Does it fit with the characters? Is what the author's trying to say reflected in the girl he picks? That being said, I think that we can't just have him pick one if he doesn't know how the others feel and there isn't this full level of everyone kind of being on the same page about it. So that's what I want to happen first before we get a pick, but I'm not going to complain about it being Uruka. So those are really my thoughts on We Can't Study. We Can't Study is probably the one I'm most anxious about, but also like really curious to see how it turns out, because it's exciting and I'm really there's a lot that I really feel about this that I'm not completely sure on yet. So that's that. So next is Dr. Stone. All right, look. So there's a lot to talk about Dr. Stone. There's the actual chapters. There's my theory that is 100% correct. I have some stuff to talk about. I have a lot to talk about with Dr. Stone, actually. But I'm just going to go through the chapters, and then I have a point that something in a previous chapter I want to bring up that I'm not going to bring up until we get to it. So let's just go through some of the stuff that I liked in the chapters. Because Dr. Stone is a weird manga for me because I loved it at the start, and I loved everything through the anecdotes. And I think the war dropped down a little bit because I think it lost some of what made the early parts special. And I'd be curious to reread it now because I'm starting to wonder if it's trying to do a thing where they personify different parts of science through these arcs. Because this arc kind of talked about a different part of science than some of the early stuff did. But I still think that they're doing a good job at showing what I liked about some of the early stuff. Because like what I liked early on was how hard they had to work for the smallest of victories. And I feel like there was a point where they lost that a lot. And now I feel they're not working as hard, but they're not building the same things, but we still do see glimpses of how hard they're having to work. So I'm really mixed on it, and I almost want to go back and read just the one arc I have kind of issues with, but I'm glad Dr. Stone is back to being what I would call phenomenal. Really happy about that. Dr. Stone's really, really good right now, and I will not stand for Dr. Stone slander on my timeline. So I want to get that away. There was some stuff I fucking loved. So when Senku, the man, I think Ibara or whatever, used his hat to stop the device coming at him. The way that Captain Boy jumped to push the Medusa device closer to him is great. And it fits so well with the arc because so much of this arc has been people, petrifying themselves or kind of dying in a sense to pass on to Senku and push their hopes into Senku so that Senku could do it. So it's great that the way the arc ends is the most prideful character sacrificing himself for Senku. Even though I think he'd already done it, but the fact that he's the one who makes that sacrifice at the end is really, really good. And then obviously Senku gets him. And then I loved at the end of that chapter where he's kind of thinking about like he's alone again and he's all upset about it. And then he's like even saying, I'm all alone. And he gets a broadcast from the Kingdom of Science where they're like, y'all, you're not alone, And just this thing where he's like, I'm not alone, you're right, is so good. I love it. I love friendship. Yes. Because that's almost something I think that is one of my favorite parts early on that almost I wish they'd have gotten more into is how long Senku was just alone trying to fix things for. Because he was alone for so long just trying to be able to petrify people. It's great. I love it. So now to talk about the most recent chapter. Chrome is great. Chrome is one of my favorite characters in the series, and him and Senku's reactions were like, if you wake me up and you're here alone, that means that we did it, and they high five and they're good boys. I love it. And I like the way that they have to make petrification stuff so they can only bring people back one at a time. And so even though this is all in one chapter, you get the sense with this and later when they repair the boat that there is a passage of time and they're having to do these things one piece at a time to get there, as opposed to just a couple panels later, boom. Like, you get this sense that time is passing as they're trying to fix this stuff and trying to get back to good. So, that's really good. Genro and Kohaku are back. Not that anyone was worried they were going to die, but they're finally back. The Kohaku Senku hug is fucking great. One of the best spreads of the week. Maybe my favorite? No, it's not my favorite one. I'm sorry. Fucking great, though. Really good. I love it. Kohaku's a hot lady, but that's just, that's a known fact. We don't need to talk about that anymore. And then the ending of the chapter. We got to talk about this. So here's where I give my big brain theory that is correct. It's true. I don't need anyone to tell me it's not true. And we can all see as the manga progresses that I'm the smartest chapter reviewer currently on YouTube. So if you notice at the beginning of, and I think I only noticed this because I did these at a time. Actually, I don't know. Let me look at my stuff. Okay. So in the chapter on 2-2, when you look at Senku's hands, ever since he talked about how the petrification stuff, I think I mentioned it even before on the chapter reviews, his hands are like fucked up, right? Like they have like those weird black shit on them from when he used the petrification, like the acid to fix his hands, and it like fucked up his hand, right? so you didn't get petrified. The Senku we see at the end of the chapter, that's the one who's, you know, trying to fuck up all of the planet and repetrify the whole planet at once, has that shit all over him. That's definitely something that's going to matter. Either he gets acid all over him, or he keeps getting petrified and unpetrified. Something's going on with that causes his entire face to get like that kind of smudgy, cracked acid all over him, those acid burns. And so that's definitely going to matter again. And that's really the whole of my big brain theory. But, you know, I noticed it, so I'm going to bring it up. And, you know, I like to talk about how smart I am. Makes me feel good. Makes y'all feel good for watching me, because you're like, yeah, you know, why would I watch, you know, fucking Roger's Base or, you know, Mr. Morse? Not that I'm, you know what? Okay, I shouldn't say that. I don't want to shit talk other chapter reviewers. They do their thing. They have their fans. I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me what other chapter reviewers say. But, you know, you watch these other guys, you're like, okay. But then you watch Vindy, and he's, you know, he's smart. He's talking about how he's smart. You're like, oh my god, he is smart. I'm watching a good chapter reviewer. You know, that's kind of what's going on when you watch me. So I'm trying to pump up Vindy Hive. So that's really it for Dr. Stone. I definitely want to see more of what happens with this petrification stuff and why Senku's doing it. And it also, you know, we saw this is the end of part 3. So we're moving into the next major part of the manga. And I'm excited because I really like this manga, and I think it's starting to really get good again. And I really want to see what's going on with now part 4 of the manga and where it goes from here, because it's good. It's really good. I love this manga. So again, that's it for Dr. Stone. So we can go to Act Age now. I know we were just talking about how I like to talk about how smart I am. Act Age made me even smarter, because I notice obvious things. So we'll get to why I'm smart at a certain point. We'll get there. But before that, let's just start from the beginning, because both of these chapters of Act Age, chapter 99 and 100, were so good. I mean, every chapter of Act Age is good, but like, it's almost hard. I almost don't want to talk about Act Age, just going to be talking about it for like 15-20 minutes. So the first thing, I really like seeing, you know, people were speculating, why was she crying at the end? That kind of doesn't make sense, because it doesn't really make sense. And then there was, you know, critics and people who know the play or know what's supposed to happen were saying, like, that was a mess. And what was really cool was the way that they used that little girl to kind of show what the audience reaction is. Because I'm pretty sure that was the little girl who Yonagi was glaring at the beginning that was scared of her. And then throughout the course of the play ended up liking her and even wanting to go see Yonagi after the play. It was great. And so I like there's this contrast between people like the play, but it's messy and wrong. And so we'll see that again. And they even mention, like, once they see Chiyoko's play, they'll know what it's supposed to look like, and they won't like Yonagi's, and that's cool, and I can't wait to see that happen. I also like that from this stage, I also love that all the actors, like, that were in the audience could realize what was going on stage, that Yonagi had stopped acting, and that's why Ogami went in and grabbed her hand and was like, bitch, act, and then she started crying and acted again. So that was really good. And then the other thing that I loved from just this thing of everyone standing up and leaving the theater was the fact that we saw Yonagi's friend, Hina, and she was, you know, crying, and she's like, I have to go find Yonagi, because, like, she could tell, like, Yonagi is fucked up right now, and I need to go be there for my friend, because friendship is good, and their friendship is good. It's very good. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. There was this conversation in the first chapter, so 99, between the director and Amachi. And it was really, really good, because they're talking about it, and he's like, don't worry, you know, we're going to use the second performance. This performance doesn't count. We'll just use the next one, and we'll count that. And the director's like, no. Like, they put their everything into this performance. We're using this performance. And the director's like, we can't do that. That puts a bad image on them. You know, we're not thespians. We're movie makers, first and foremost. And the director's like, no, I'm a director. I'm a director first and foremost. This was the performance they put everything in. That's the one you're using. He's so cool. And then we go from him being a cool Chad to Ogami being an even cooler Chad. Where he's so good because he's going up, right? And he's trying to, you know, tell Yonagi, like, sorry about the ending there, you know. I'm a tyrant. I do what I want. I make everyone follow me. And the other co-stars hit him because he's now trying to shoulder things alone and not relying on other people. And they hit him because, like, no, it was all of us, including the director, that made the decision to go all out and do what we thought was right. And so instead of just letting Ogami or Yonagi take, because, you know, Ogami's trying to take the fall so Yonagi doesn't feel bad. But then everyone else is just like, no. They hit him. The two younger ones hit him. Cool Priest Chad was like, I would have punched you. And they're like, we all did it together. This was all of our play, including the director. This was what we decided. This was our play. And, you know, a large part of that is to help Yonagi, so she doesn't feel as defeated about the fact that, you know, she kind of messed up the play at the end. Really, really good. Phenomenal. And then we get... I want cheering and clapping. Like, I want people... I deserve it. So, we get... the director walks out and Yonagi says why, and you know you're thinking, oh, she's gonna be like, well, why did you sleep with my father? Why did you do that shit to me? And instead she says, why didn't you rely on us to support you or whatever? And like, I've been saying this, and I know it's not like the most. I know it's obvious that that's what's going on, and so anyone with half a brain reading knows that. But I would have pretended I'm special, and so the fact that, you know, we get that, and we get Yonagi saying that to her is so good. And it just proves everything I've been saying thematically about this arc is right. And that it's so great. Because what you get is you get this level of... like, Yonagi is now above it. And you even see, you know, the director's like, why is it never me? Why does Yonagi get the feeling that I don't have? And Yonagi just tells her, like, because you're not relying on other people. And it's so good. It's fucking great. And then there's some other stuff I liked. I actually don't know where the chapter break is, so I'm just gonna keep talking. I know where some of the chapter break stuff is, but I don't know if this is which chapter this part's in. But the way the director was carrying Chiyoko like over his shoulder was so fucking funny. I love it. I love that Chiyoko's not even like complaining. She's just like stone faced. He's carrying her. He's carrying on a conversation with other people, and she's talking to other people while he's carrying her because she didn't want to go, you know, learn to perform and stuff. Actually, I think that was the previous chapter, because then we get to the real good shit. That was this chapter. But, so yeah, that chapter would have been my favorite chapter of last week, bar none. Insanely good chapter. Insanely great chapter. It was everything I wanted from, like, the conclusion of their play. And then this chapter is finally we're, you know, kind of starting, like, it's time for a new play. And I'm super pumped with what they're going with. So, because originally, so, I want to talk about this because this was something that I've been talking to a couple of people about this. About how I feel like Yonagi should lose this performance. I think just narratively, that's what makes the most sense. Is if Yonagi and her crew and her company lose to the director and to Chiyoko, it, you know, makes sense. It should be her big loss that then she can learn from and improve. And I've had people say to me, you know, well, but for that to happen, you know, I don't think there will be... I don't see how Chiyoko's play could be better than Yonagi's. And it's like, okay, there's like a fundamental misunderstanding I think people have when it comes to that, where the writing doesn't have to be better in Chiyoko's play for it to be a better experience, or for it to be better for people in universe than Yonagi's play. Remember, we're not in universe sitting in the seats watching the play. We're seeing the behind the scenes, and we're seeing what's going on in characters' heads and the arcs that they're going through as people, not just as characters. So of course we have different feelings on it. We don't see the plays as a play. We see it as the manga actage, right? So you can't say, oh, well, Chiyoko's, you know, or say Yonagi's play is better written, but Chiyoko's play in universe was better put together, better performed. You can't say that Yonagi should have won that just because it was better written, because that's not how that works. We're talking about their things in universe. Like, in universe, Chiyoko's play could be shorter and it could be worse written. Or, I guess, I don't see it being, like, poorly written, but it could be, you know, not as insane and not as emotionally resonant with people. But that doesn't mean that they should lose. Because they're being judged because they're not being judged by us outside of it. We're not the ones who are voting on which play we think was better. people in universe are voting on which in-universe play they think was better, which means that it's by the in-universe play, which means that we can't judge them as in-universe plays because we didn't see the play start to finish as it played out in front of us. We saw the backgrounds. We saw, the manga, not the play. And I think people have that disconnect with it, and it's definitely a problem that people would like that, because I've heard this from multiple people now, so I'm not calling anyone specifically out. But that's like a problem I think people have, where it's just this disconnect between the two that, you could have, for example, right? And this isn't exactly the same because there is different shit there, but in Dragon Ball, you have Goku and Vegeta, right? People think Vegeta's a better written character. I'm inclined to agree. Doesn't mean Vegeta should beat Goku in every fight, because they're not fighting as who's a better written character. They're fighting as who's a better fighter and who's a stronger fighter. And yet people will understand it with that, but I've heard people say the exact opposite with the Act Age plays. And I guess because it's, in universe they're being judged as the quality of something. But we're not judging the quality of the play as a play, we're judging it as the quality of the play as a manga. So anyone who says that Shioko's shouldn't win because it's not as well written as Unagi's play, you can either send them this clip, or you can tell them they're idiots and they don't know what they're talking about. Either of those work. But that's just how I feel about that. I want to say that now because it will definitely come up, especially because I do think Chiyoko's going to win. So I really want to make sure that I stress that. And I'm going to say it more times because I think it's something people need to know and people need to be paying attention to, right? As we move forward with this arc. Okay, that being said, now I want to talk about the chapter. The newest chapter. Let me go back. I gotta look at the chapter. I'm a piece of shit. So a little bit of behind the scenes really quickly. I wrote in my notes, I love the director, but didn't explain why. And I know it's something from the chapter I want to talk about, so I'm just really quickly going to the chapter, and I'm going to look it up. So I'm going to cut now to me talking about what I found. So what I was talking about I was talking about when the director is saying that even though, he's like, we could win by default here, I don't want to lose. I want to put up to a play that's beyond criticism. I want to put together the best play possible. So he has them go watch Chiyoko's movie. And the reason for it's really great, because there's something about it that's not just Chiyoko that I want to touch on really quickly, is Araya had never seen Momoshiro's performances before. Now he has. So now he has an idea of the kind of actress he's working with and what he needs to do to bring the best out of her. He's also a good boy because the way he pulled her back into the seat when she tried to leave when she was fed up with her own performance. Great. A++. I also loved... I almost want... Spread of the week is Act Age. I'm sorry. I'm just going to word it now. Boom, spread of the week. I'll just call back to this part. But the spread of everyone sitting there watching the movie just entranced at her performance is so great. I fucking love it. It just shows exactly what an actor especially on the movie screen can do, because we saw with Yonagi's performance, right? Everyone was very much more, they were vibrant, they were scared or sad, but when Chiyoko's on screen, everyone's just staring. They can't do anything, they can't take their eyes off of her, and that's so good. Because then we see later that the director's plan is to replicate the break of her facade, right? The break of the angel mask and the always beautiful, always perfect Momoshiro to the person beneath. Which is... think about that within the context of Iron Fan really quickly. Here you have someone who is angry, and you can use that as, this beautiful princess who, you're supposed to not feel bad for, but is the main character. And so they spend the entire time entranced by this performance, and at the end when she forgives everyone, the facade breaks. It's so perfect for the play. And the fact that we now have two different ways of the play being done, of the same play being done, that appeal to these two actresses' strengths is so good. It's unreal. It's actually insane how great it, at least conceptually is in my head, like when I see the way it could play out, it's good. And so it's already setting up that like this is how they could win. But obviously we don't feel the same way because we're not seeing Momoshiro's performance, so we don't feel the same way about it that the audience does, even though you could say we feel the same way about Yonagi's. So there is a disconnect between us and the audiences in the world, and people need to keep that in mind. And that's the last I'm gonna make about this episode. I gotta stop because I'm gonna talk about that for 200 minutes, and people are just gonna get pissed. But it's so good, and I love the idea that the director thought it was bad because it wasn't what her as an actress is, and she thought it was a failure and was saying like, we're not going to hire you again as a director because you messed up. But then you get the director who's like, no, because that's what people are buying this movie and watching this movie for, and that's how you'll beat Yonagi, is that flash of the person underneath, and we just need to recreate that. So they're gonna pull an all-nighter and they're gonna figure out how to recreate it. It's gonna be so good. I actually can't wait, because you know that Momoshiro doing it and the way she's gonna break her facade is gonna be based around her feelings towards Yonagi, and it's gonna be so good. I love Act Age. Like, it's actually fucking phenomenal. So that's all I have to say about that. I'm gonna keep dissecting Act Age like this because it's just so easy to. You know, there are other things I think I'm a little bit worse at. Like One Piece, I'd say I'm a little bit worse at, like dissecting like this. Some of the stuff we're gonna talk about in a minute, like Jujutsu, I'm not as good at like really hitting that. But just something about Act Age, I can just like pinpoint it and just really get into it. So I love it. I fucking love Act Age. That being said, that's it for Act Age. Now we'll move on to Jujutsu Kaisen. Geto is fucking scary. Like, he's a big spooky boy, or I guess the brain inside Geto is a big spooky man. However, I love Gojo. I like that he's so strong that the idea is that, like, if he dies or stays sealed, humanity's just fucked. It's fucking great. I actually don't have much to say about Jujutsu right now. I don't know. I want to talk about Jujutsu because I honestly really enjoy the manga. I just almost feel like there's just not enough to talk about right now, and I don't know why. Because it's so enjoyable, and there are parts of it that I love. Like, I love the art, and I think Itadori is so well drawn. He's so cool, and you feel like there's like this energy to the movement in the manga. As weird as that might sound to say, that like really, I really feel, and it's really good. So I love the art. I forget the name of the artist, but I love the art. Akutami. So I love Akutami's art. I like the character designs. And then there's even stuff I like in the most recent chapter, there's this joke of, you know, the bottom of the tower was filled with the human, like, hybrid things, and they just fly to the top of the tower. You know, and we should get this really cool fight next chapter. I just feel like I never have enough to say. I feel like I never have anything to say other than, like, I'm enjoying what the manga's doing. And it makes me sad, because I fucking love the manga, but I don't know why I can't really ever say anything, like, substantial about it. It's making me mad. Because, I like the characters. I like Itadori. I like Megumi. I like Gojo. I love all these characters. I just can never find anything, like, substantial to say about the series. And I don't want to just sit here and say it's good in different ways for, like, 5 minutes. So, I don't want people to think that I don't like Jujutsu when I barely talk about it. And maybe I'll make a video at some point going more in depth into Jujutsu when I feel like I have more to say, but it's just right now, I don't know. I feel like I just never have anything really to say about the series other than that, yeah, I really enjoy it. I think it's really fun. And that's sad. I just don't know. Like, I don't know why I never have anything to say. So, I don't want people to think that when I barely talk about Jujutsu, it means I don't enjoy it. Like, with something like Agravity Boys or Samurai 8, where I'll talk more about it, but it's negative. Like, I'd probably give Jujutsu like a 6 or a 7. Probably a 7. But I just never have anything to say, which is sad. So, that's it for Jujutsu. We can go to Chainsawman. The main thing with Chainsawman and the last 2 chapters, the most important thing, and along with the color page of We Can't Study, has really helped me transcend as a human past normal limits, right? Humans can't go Super Saiyan, but if there was a human equivalent, I'm there right now. I'm like a Zen master is Power in these last 2 chapters of Chainsaw Man has been so great. I don't know how Power is one of the best girls in Jump and just gets better every week she gets better. Every time she's in the manga, she just gets better. And I don't understand how. I really don't. But somehow it happens. So we gotta talk about these chapters. We gotta talk about Power. One of the best parts is just Power and Dingy's relationship. It's so great. Like, Power's like, I don't eat my vegetables. And Dingy just shoves it into her face. He's like, here, bitch. And she's, it tastes like dirt. I'm gonna barf. Dingy, eat my barf. He's like, bitch, I'll eat your barf for $100. It's so great. And then she just leaves. And when she just leaves the restaurant, she says this line where she's like, die, and just runs out. And it's funny. I love Power. She's great. And the fact that, then they stuck like nails into Dingy. They got 2 of them in, and the 3rd one will kill him. But they need to go through and actually, stick them and shit was good. So I give it like an A+. But then the chapter ends. Okay, look. I love Dingy, but I hate Dingy now. And we gotta talk about why. So they say, we're using Power, you, and Dingy as bait. And she's like, that's not fair. I'm not getting anything out of this. Because she doesn't even want to go on the vacation. She's like, I want to suck humans' blood till they die. Which, I'm right here, Power. Like, I don't care if I die. I'm right here, Power, please. But then Dingy's like, I don't want that. But she gets on Dingy's shoulders like, woohoo, when they say you can't. Oh, my God. Oh, what a good lady. I love Power so much. She's so great. Phenomenal character. Phenomenal lady. And Dingy's a little bitch for not wanting that. Like, I don't know how you don't want that. Like, I pray every night before I go to sleep for that to happen to me. To just wake up drained because Power sucked all my blood out. Please. God, please. Ah! Alright. So that was it for the first chapter, the February 2nd chapter. So now we have this week's chapter to talk about, which... It's funny to me how... Cause not that Chainsaw Man's not a comedy, but it's crazy to me how Chainsaw Man is the funniest chapter of this week when there are other manga that, like, are just comedies. Like, Chainsaw Man was so fucking funny this week. So there's... Okay. So it starts with the car, when Power's like, hey, this looks like my car. And then she just sits in the driver's seat, she's like, this is my car. I don't understand how she's so good all the time. And then she hits Dingy and, like, the bad guy with the car. Like, it just cuts, and they're talking, and we know Power's behind the wheel, and it cuts, right? And then, let me pull up, because I screenshot the pages so I can talk about it. She's talking, it cuts, and she's hit them with the car. And then you see the face of her and the other person, and they're like flabbergasted, like they're because she didn't mean to hit him. And then she fucking says, like, it's your car, it's not my fault. Are you trying to pass the blame on me? After saying, it was her car that she should drive, she's like, this is your car, it's your fault, not me. Don't put the blame on me, it's your car, you did it. And just gets out. And then it turns out that it was an enemy wearing a disguise. And, I read both these chapters, and every moment Power had, I was like, this is the best Power moment. No, this is the best Power moment. No, But then the moment where they find out it's an enemy, and she's like, I saw through the enemy's disguise. And she makes a pose that goes, like, over the panel lines. Oh, my God. How is this lady real? How is a lady this good real? Like, if I were to make, like, a top lady 3x3, Power's, like, in the top 3. Maybe top 4, maybe top 5. But she's on there for sure because she's so good consistently. I just can't, like, handle in my brain how great she is. She's so funny. And when you combine her with Dingy and with the rest of the characters, it's so great. And, like, this chapter was fucking hilarious. Like, I was laughing my ass off reading this Chainsaw Man chapter because it's so funny. And Power's so good and makes me monkey. Alright, that's probably enough monkey noises about power. I should probably stop before I get thrown into some kind of fucking psych ward for being a monster. Monster degenerate. Even as much of a degenerate as I am, I'm still not giving Ishizoku reviewers on a 10 on Mal because I think that owns Funimation somehow. But we're not talking about that today. Next is Samurai 8. That's the most accurate representation of me I could ever give during the Samurai 8 chapter. I had to DM like 3 people who I know are reading this manga. I was so distraught. Why the fuck did they add RPG bullshit to Samurai 8? Why is there a Skyrim skill tree where you need to get your stats to a certain point and then you have a skill? Why is that a thing? Who decided that was good? Because it wasn't me. I can promise you it wasn't me. Because I have more, intelligence than that. I don't know why that was a thing. I don't want to talk about anything else that happened other than, okay, you brought Goku into this for some fucking reason. Don't do Goku's name dirty like that. Don't do a dishonor on him. How dare you? The name Goku doesn't deserve to be in such filth. I don't care what you think of like Dragon Ball Super or fucking GT or the anime or anything like that. It's not fucking worse than this. Why does Hachimura have fucking RPG bullshit? Why is it actually just an RPG now where it's like, oh, once you get 10 strength and 10 charisma and 10 heroism and all this shit, you can use this move. And once you get this, you can use this move. But you could use this one before because you had my power. Like, shut the fuck. Ah! Look at that. Did you see that? Fucking dimple fell because this manga's so bad. Put dimple back. You know what, really quickly, this is me to you, Kishimoto. Naruto might be good, but this is what you fucking did to me with Samurai 8. Fucking piece of shit. That's really all I have to say. I hate the RPG bullshit. It's fucking stupid. It's really, really dumb. I actually can't stand it. I don't know why it's a thing. I don't know who thought it was good. I don't know. I really hope this gets canceled. And Shueisha just tells Kishimoto, like, dog, try harder, please. Because this is not what I ever want to read. So, that's all I'm talking about for Samurai 8. I'm too fucking... No. Mission Yozakura family time. Mission Yozakura family has been good, though. It's been fire. I'm angry because of Samurai 8, but then God gave me the gift of Mission Yozakura family. There's some stuff. I like this politician guy. I just love Mutsumi and any joke involving her. The way she was just supportive of Taiyo, just, dressing as a girl. She's like, you look so cute. Great. Almost any joke with Mutsumi gets me. She's like maybe my favorite character in the manga just because she's so funny. And she's a cute lady, but we're not talking about that either. So the way that like Taiyo figured out, oh, they're using Morse code. Like I like seeing him on spy missions, and I wish. Well, no, I don't wish, because now we're starting to get more of that. I want to see more of the spy missions. Maybe a little bit more in depth. But I think this is kind of the start of them giving it to us, because this is like a 3-4 chapter arc now we're going to get. Which, a 4 chapter arc's not crazy, but you have to start with small shit, and then you get bigger and bigger with it. So, I'm enjoying what we're getting right now. I like the espionage, and the way he goes in, and then the fact that Elton John was actually another spy who's spooky and shoots Taiyo in the head. And then now there's stuff going on with Taiyo's family where they're not what they seem. And, I like that idea. I just want the manga to get more time to play it out. And then there was a line that, it's a very obvious way of saying that this is kind of what this arc, or at least a little bit of the manga wants to kind of focus on, there was a line that, like, there are many different truths. So it's kind of obvious that it wants to focus on this kind of aspect for a little bit of, you know, because then the politician talks about truth again. He's like, if I said the truth so easily, I wouldn't be a good politician. And I mean, he doesn't die, but, you know, he was ready to die before really being honest about things. And so there's definitely gonna be some shit with the truth, you know, the truth of Taya's family, the truth of kind of spies, and why the Yozakura family kind of did what they did to put Taiyo in this position. The one thing I do want to make sure, though, is that they don't decide that, like, oh yeah, Taiyo was also just born to be a fucking super spy. I feel like they'll kind of take away from some of what made it so great that he was working so hard for Mutsumi, but I don't think it'd be the end of the world either way. It's just, I really liked that aspect, and I would be a little upset if it didn't keep it, but I'm not going to say it's bad if it doesn't keep it. I'll wait to see how it plays out. And then at the end, when Taiyo breaks in, he's just super cool, and I really like it. And I mean, yeah, this is the first time that, like, I don't want to say this main guy is irredeemable, because, you know, he even said, like, oh, will you kill my son? But I feel like this is the first time we are going to get a villain who doesn't just, you know, oh, now he's a good guy, ha ha. Well, I guess it kind of happened earlier with the people who kidnapped Mutsumi, but you know what I mean. Spy Elton John is pretty spooky, so I like what's going on. Yozakura family was pretty good this week. So I definitely think that it should, like, now Yozakura family is starting to get to what I've always wanted the manga to be. So I'm hoping that it gets time to kind of explore some of the stuff it's doing and doesn't get canceled. Because I feel like it'd be at the point, because it's like 22 now, I think. And because it's like at that point, it's getting kind of close to its cutoff. It's 23. So not that it's going to get canceled, but I feel that if it does get canceled, soonish is that point. And I don't want to get canceled. So that's why I want to see what happens these next few chapters, because I feel like now is its chance to really, and I mean, it was selling pretty well, so hopefully I want to see it continue, and I hope it does get that chance. So that's what I have to say for Yozakura family. I do like it. I do want to see more of it. So yeah, let's just keep hoping and praying. Next is Mitama. I like these Mitama chapters. They weren't great or anything, but they were enjoyable. It was the manga doing its gag thing and not trying, because, like, okay, I don't want it to sound like when I talk about things undercutting with a joke, that something being a joke is inherently bad, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with a gag manga that just wants to make people laugh. My issue is when you're trying to do more serious stuff and it doesn't come out that serious. And I think that both chapters we got were pretty good at never being, like, it's obvious after the way the chapter before ended that Rina Hayes didn't actually turn evil and that she was doing something for Mitama because she has feelings for him now. It was really obvious that that's what was going on the whole time. So when it turned out she was just making chocolate, was cute. And her face at the end of the chapter where she said, thank goodness, she was really cute. So that was good. You know, that was something that was enjoyable. And I didn't feel like it had the problem that, you know, oh, it's just turning into a joke, because it was something that was obvious was a joke the whole time, and it wasn't ever really trying to play it serious, other than the fact that the main character's a dumb fuck who thinks it is serious. Then in the next chapter, we got Funny Fish Boy, who said some good fish puns. My favorite of which was, what the shell is wrong with you? And then the way that guy was just treating it like Pokemon. Like, that guy was treating it like Pokemon because he called her a something master. That was obviously like Pokemon. He had like Pokeballs. But I like the idea that, like, yeah, Rina Hayes is just, you know, she's friends with her spirits, and so they like her. And then the way he kept saying his catchphrase, and then Rina said it at the end. And I like the joke where the guy came out, I don't remember his name, but the guy who's Mitama's friend from school comes out of his room, and Mitama's like, no, fucking go back. You're just going to make things more complicated. Was funny. I really like this this fish spirit. He's a good boy. I want to see more of him because I fucking love him. All right, that's what I have to say for Mitama. So next is Zipman. So the main two my main two takeaways from these last two Zipman chapters, not even because there was one interesting thing that happened. Well, no, there were a few interesting ideas But obviously I don't think any of it was like none of what's been going on here has been like really hitting thematically at what I've been talking about. So I can't talk about that really because I'm not going to try to force it in stuff where it's not really being addressed. But there are a few things that I do want to, some cool ideas, I guess, like narratively that I liked. And then obviously the art in Zipman is fucking good. It's cool. The art is easily the best part of Zipman. I love the art. It's good in fighting. It's good just in general. The characters are cool. So I definitely really like Zipman is enjoyable just because the art's so fucking good. Now that I've read Guardian of the Witch, and so we have all these, if we're taking it, I would say even if you go back to Chainsawman, but especially if you go from Mission Yozakura Family through Guardian of the Witch, I think Zipman has undoubtedly the best art among them. So if one could stay just on art, I would pick Zipman. I don't know if I would say Zipman is the one I most want to stay after these 2 chapters because they didn't touch on it, but there are still some cool ideas. So obviously the thing I've been talking about thematically is with like the media you have nostalgia for and kind of that aspect of it. And I'm sure I could look more into it and come up with some stuff like the flying devil guy kind of looked like the devil from Ghosts and Goblins and some other Capcom games that have like a devil. But I'm not going to go that like into it because I don't really feel like that would be, because I'm not too sure and I don't want to just try to start making these weird connections that don't exist. So I like that the guy was just going to explode all the people, and the line that main boy had about like, you're right, I choose neither, and then threw the shit like right at the zipper was really cool. Like the manga's just cool. It's already has those like god tier shonen lines like, you're right, I'm going to pick neither. So that's really good. I like that he didn't take the zipper from that guy, even though, other people he takes the zipper got the wings from the demon guy, shit like that I enjoy. I like the joke of ending one chapter with someone saying, oh, I know his weakness. Next chapter just gets killed and like basically off screen. It's so good. Like the manga's got that. That was good. I think the most interesting thing of these 2 chapters though was the fact that he imprisoned the soul of the older brother. And then, he used fire on main boy, but he used some new cool form that's like fucking so cool. And the art is so good. But just the idea that now he's having to fight without his older brother, and you see like how upset he is that he's lost his brother again twice now, is really, really, really good actually. I hope it, not that I want it to be a while before the brother comes back, but because the brother does a lot, right? Like when they threw the javelin, that was the brother doing the calculations and telling him where to aim and where to throw. But I like the idea that like now he's having to fight without his brother, even if it's just for one fight. So I'd be okay with seeing things like that happen more. Maybe there's, times where he can't fight and it's just the other brother that has to. But then when they come together, they're stronger. And I like that idea. So that's something that I think is interesting about it so far. That's honestly all I have to say for Zipman. Again, these chapters weren't like super rich thematically, and because of that, there's not like a lot of analyzing I can do. And I know some chapter reviews will go way in depth into like every little thing that happens, but when I talk about so much manga, there's just no point in doing that. Maybe someday I'll go super in depth into some things, but I think it's better if I just kind of talk about the manga, maybe explain some flaws, some things I like, and analyze it when I can. So that's what I like about Zipman this week. Again, great art, super cool. I give it big pluses. Next is Agravity Boys. Again, I have some shit to talk. I actually don't have much to say about Agravity Boys, but I do have some things. So the first thing that I kind of noticed about it that kind of helped me realize a big issue I have with Agravity Boys isn't even just that it's not just that it's a joke that Chris is cute and they all want to have sex with Chris. But there's this like added layer that Chris's role would be the same if Chris was a girl, right? Like if Chris was a girl, the typical like structure would be that, yeah, Chris is the one who gets captured. Chris is the one they're saving, shit like that. And so this chapter, Chris gets kidnapped. And like, I would have liked the problem is I feel like that the role of that kind of character will always be played by Chris. And I think that there's a problem with that. Because, like, if you're going to have the manga have 4 boys, why not have the buff guy get kidnapped and then he turns into a sweetie boy and they love him? Why does it have to be Chris, right? The one who already is joked about looking like a female and acting like one, you know? So that's just like a big issue I have with it, is that like I think that's really stupid that Chris is the one to always play this role when you could almost get funnier results out of having the big buff guy play that role, right? Imagine if the big buff guy was kidnapped and he was the one that was sitting there being friends with them, or he was the one that they were lifting up as a king, you know? That would have been funny, but it's always Chris to fill that role, and I'm not the biggest fan of the fact that he's always the one that will, because he is the one that just will fill that role in the manga, and I think that is kind of an issue, and that's part of why I don't like Chris in the manga, and I don't like that Chris is in the manga, is the way that he's used. The only other thing I have to say about this chapter is actually two chapters, I guess. Never mind, I have two things to say. I forgot there were two chapters. The first chapter that there was, I actually really liked the beds. There was like the 2 pages, and it showed each of their rooms. And so you get a glimpse of their personalities from their rooms. And that's something that's actually really good. I like anytime it does that. I like seeing characters' environments and learning about them through that. And so that's something that I will praise Agravity Boys for. The other thing that I'll give it props for is I like the design of these aliens. They're little cutie boys. So again, I like the art. I like the artistic parts of it. I just hate anything written. So, you know, nothing new with Agravity Boys. That's just how I feel. I still don't think it's good, but maybe I'm just warming up. I'm not even warming up to it. Maybe I'm just apathetic towards it now because I just can't even care anymore. But that's how I feel about that. I mean, it's still not good. I would put these chapters above Samurai 8 in a heartbeat, because I think Samurai 8 did some of the stupidest shit it's ever done, and Gravity Boys was just boring and bad. But it wasn't Samurai 8's stupid RPG bullshit. I don't understand what they're thinking. I guess next we can move on to Undead, Unluck, because that's all I have to say for Gravity Boys. So, Undead, Unluck time. Alright, boys, here we go. Undead, Unluck time. So, I like this manga. I don't have too much to say about it. There's some stuff I can talk about, but not a whole lot. So, I'll just get into some of the earlier stuff. First of all, I think there was a really good spread in Chapter 3 of the building being destroyed. Like, it was good in terms of, like, art, but I almost felt like it was so detailed and out of nowhere that it almost felt like it was kind of a way for the artist to just be like, look at how good I can draw this building exploding, you know? Not that it's bad, but it just kind of felt like it was so much for a moment that, like, almost just didn't matter. It was kind of ridiculous. I mean, the lady's still cute. I like the idea of some of the fights. She was really cute when he was like, I gave you CPR, and mouth to mouth, and she was like, oh my god. She was cute, but again, like, I feel like right now with Undead Unluck, I do like the idea, actually. I liked the first page to chapter 4 where she was writing down all the parts of him, and like all of them she was like, looks painful. And then, you know, he like shoves the sword into his hand. He's like, well, I have no other place to put it, so I might as well shove it through my arm or through my back. It kind of makes you wonder even more so, why is part of the reason he wants to die because he's just in constant pain. And he needs to die so he can be rid of the pain, you know? It makes you wonder that. So, I like that idea, and I hope it gets addressed more, but as of right now, I feel like it's not... It just doesn't have enough there. But again, enjoyable. So, we'll just have to see where it goes from here. Yeah, that's about it. I don't have too much else to say. I don't know if Undead Unluck. I really don't. I like, the goal they have. I like okay, so they killed one of the guys, so now they have to go kill another one. There's now a girl that is in love with the main guy, and I want to see more of it, but I'm not... of the 3 new ones, Undead Unluck is easily my least favorite. Now that we've have 2 chapters of Guardian of the Witch, 4 of Undead Unluck, and 3 of Mashle, Undead Unluck's easily my least favorite of those 3, so that's just where I put it. Next is Mashle, though, which I'm excited to talk about, actually, because I like Mashle a lot. So Mashle's funny and has some, like, really good moments. You know, it was great in the chapter because there was a lot of just him using muscles. Like, the words were floating on the screen, and he just, like, kind of used his muscles to get him to stand straight. He broke through the Sphinx and just through the wall of the labyrinth to get to the middle with Cute Lady. You know, I like these jokes so far with his muscles, and there was also some good stuff with it, too, in Chapter 3. But so I like these jokes as long as they can continue to stay kind of fresh like that. I think the manga definitely has a chance to be, like, really, really good. The art's still good. In Chapter 2, I didn't think the girl was that cute, but in this chapter, she was really cute, and she was like, oh, he said he'd marry me, and you saw what she thought he meant, and what he meant, what she meant. Really good. I like it a lot. So she's great. I like that the guy was like, yeah, like, I'm expelling y'all, I'm gonna, you know, use magic on y'all. And Mash just walks up and breaks the wand. Like, he's so cool. I love him a lot. I like Mash a lot. He was also really, really good in his conversation with the Dumbledore, who was talking about, you know, what the school's about and all that shit. And Mash has, like, a great line at the end of the chapter where he says that, well, first of all, there's the thing, and he's gonna stab the grandpa and keep his soul in, like, this little doll. And Mash, you know, puts his hands in the way and is trying to use his muscle to block it up. He's like, I just need to outlast you. And Dumbledore's like, you know, you embody the qualities of our thing. You know, you pass. And then he's like, what does he say? Sorry, I want to pull it up. Oh, well, Mash just says, you know, regarding your question, what I'd have to do if I face you. And he says his answer is, I just knocked the stuffing out of you with my fist. Fucking great. He's so cool. So I definitely give Mash, like, he's cool. I like him. I like his character. They made it super obvious, especially with that color page in Chapter 2, like the Harry Potter influences. So that's fine. I don't really care, actually. I just think it's funny, and I like that it's just, you know. But I definitely enjoyed these 2 chapters, and it sold me on the manga. And so I'm okay if it continues for a while, because I want to see more of what it can do. So I like it. I don't have too much to say about it right now. I mean, I like the idea of his muscles. Oh, more Vindy being smartest man alive. Currently talking about Weekly Shonen Jump. Did you guys notice how in the first episode of it, I mentioned that he had, like, the little magic mark in the key visual? I was like, that's definitely going to be, like, they give him a fake one, and they gave him a fake one. I'm just so smart that, like, nobody can actually, you know, say anything. Nobody can say anything about Jump that I haven't already said. But yeah, so that's it for Mashle. I like it a lot. Very good. Next is Guardian of the Witch. Guardian of the Witch is enjoyable. I actually, like, I'd seen the key visual first, like, or like the key art, like the first, like, you know, a little bit of art, promotional art, before I saw anything for Undead, Unluck, or Mashle. And I actually thought that it was going to be my least favorite of the 3. So, because it just, I don't know for sure, but I would not be surprised if Guardian of the Witch was one of Tabata's assistants previously. It very much looks like Black Clover, stylistically. Not that that's a problem, because, again, I think the art's one of Black Clover's best qualities. And so, there was some stuff that I enjoy a lot in it. It definitely surprised me. It was a pleasant surprise, Guardian of the Witch was. I don't like it more than Mashle, but I enjoy it. The witch is really cute and funny. I like the way the first chapter kind of moves, where it starts. It feels like the kind of first chapter I would expect from a manga that stays, actually, like almost to a T. Where we start with the character talking about their biggest issue in life, we end with the other character telling them that he's gonna fix that issue. Right? It starts with her saying, "I'm a witch. I've never been able to have any kind of happiness," and it ends with the main boy. What's his name? I don't remember. Telling her, no, you know, I'll find you happiness. It's enjoyable. I liked that. That's kind of what I expect from a shonen manga's first chapter. Just that kind of one to the other. So that was really good. I also liked that when he went to kill her, she knew that was his job, but because he had said, you know, I hate witches, I want to create a world without witches, she didn't want to tell him, right? She likes him because he wants the same thing she does, even though people like him, normal people, have to rely on witches for everything, and that's really cool. And I like that his motivation is he wants to be able to take care of things like that on his own and not deal with the magic. Again, the art's pretty good. I mean, I still think Zipman has the best art out of the new, but I would put Guardian of the Witch second. It's really, really good. Yeah, I mean, just the main girl's really cute. I like their dynamic a lot, actually. Like, the way they play off each other is really enjoyable. And so since the series is, there's 3 characters, but mainly, I mean, it'll mainly be these 2 playing off each other. I'm about it because they have a really, really good dynamic. So I can definitely see a manga about just their dynamic and, then plot shit being really enjoyable. Especially if their party, gets maybe more characters that we add into it. So it's good. I like... Yeah, like, he's going to give her the happy life she wants, and he's going to revert her. Because originally it's like, okay, I'm going to make you not the last witch. And then in this chapter, it's not only you're not going to be the last witch, but I'm going to cure you of being a witch. Like, you're going to be a human and live out the rest of your life happy. And then Nada's really good. Like, the way that she's like, both y'all are wrong and stupid, and you're dumb, Fafnir, for saving us. You shouldn't have done that. You should have just killed her. You didn't even save us. We're fucked. And the witch is like, no, I'm doing this. Like, this is what I want. The way Fafnir has this line that's like, I'm no longer the guardian of the witch. I'm the guardian of whatever her name is so good. What a great line. He's so cool. I love the Chad. And then I liked the idea of, like, he bites his hand before he goes into, like, battle so he can, like, feel the pain. That's also really cool. I give that some points out of 10. Yeah. Then the spread over the wall. The only other spread that I was thinking about giving spread of the week to outside of the Act Age one was the one of them when they got over the wall and they saw, like, the outside world was really, really good. And I was actually considering giving it spread of the week until recording Act Age. I was like, no, it's Act Age. I mean, it's a great spread, and I like it a lot. So I definitely give Guardian of the Witch a lot of points now. It's really, really enjoyable. Yeah, it's probably second after Mashle still, just because I think Mashle has the comedy. But, I mean, I think Mashle of the newest manga is probably the funniest one. However, I think Guardian of the Witch is the one that has the potential to be the best if it kind of keeps staying good. I could see Guardian of the Witch being actually just really good. Also, it has a great name because it doesn't have just a terrible subtitle or... And I found out recently. Here's something I should note, because when I talk about the subtitles with, like, Mashle and stuff, apparently some of the subtitles Viz adds in. I didn't think about that, and I should look at it more, which one, like, what the actual Japanese title is. Because obviously, well, it'd be interesting if it was, but I don't expect that Shueisha cares at all what the Western opinion is when it comes to keeping a manga in Jump. So the Japanese title would matter more than the Western title would. But if the title is just Guardian of the Witch, that's a good name for a manga. I like the character designs. I definitely think it's something that I could see doing well. And I enjoyed the manga. Yeah, it was a really pleasant surprise. It was not something I expected to be as enjoyable as it was with just 2 chapters. And it's one of the ones that I think it probably has the most potential of everything below, like, Chainsawman, or really below Samurai 8, because I consider, like, the newest manga being Yozakura Family to Guardian of the Witch, even though you could argue Zipman to Guardian of the Witch or Undead Unluck to Guardian of the Witch, because there's only like 20 chapters between Chainsawman and Samurai 8, and like 15 between Samurai 8 and Yozakura Family. But I don't know, I just get this feeling, Yozakura Family to Guardian of the Witch are like the super new ones. Like, those are the ones that I think are the most, like, still potentially getting canceled. I think Samurai 8 could get canceled, but I think Samurai 8, if it gets canceled, is getting canceled on the 40s or the 50s. But in terms of, like, getting canceled, like, 35, like, right at 3 volumes. Because basically, if we're talking about getting canceled at 3 volumes, I think Samurai 8 already is on its 4th volume, so that can't happen. And so that would get canceled 4 or 5 volumes. But if we're talking about getting canceled just in 3 volumes, it's Yozakura Family to Guardian of the Witch. And I think of those, Guardian of the Witch easily has the most, or not easily, but I think Guardian of the Witch has the most potential with its story, and it's the one that in 2 chapters has managed to make me think the most, like, oh yeah, I can see this being something that's really good. So, I mean, Guardian of the Witch is good so far. I definitely enjoy it. That's really all I have to say about it, though. I'll talk more about it, obviously, as the manga continues, and hopefully for a while. But that's all I have to say for the chapters this week. It's been a while already, so I'll just try to end it off. I already said spread of the week is Act Age. Not that I could give, if I were to give two other spreads a little bit of a thing, it's the Guardian of the Witch spread, and then actually that Black Clover spread of Yuno yelling, I thought was like really, really good. So those would be my top three spreads of the week, but it's Act Age. Really, there's like two. It's Act Age and Guardian of the Witch, and I think that there just wasn't other ones that were, I think, as great. So I guess now if we move to top three of the week, is a little bit harder. So my top three this week, I'm actually really happy with the ones I get to put in here. So one is Dr. Stone, was my favorite chapter this week, which is interesting because I think I put it's been on my top three before, but it's number one. And of course, I get to have at least one new manga has to be in a top three of the week because there was no haikyuu and no One Piece. So then, for the new manga, it's its first time in the top three was Chainsawman. It was fucking hilarious. It's easily the funniest chapter that I've talked about since I started doing these chapter reviews. It was so great. It was just like the first bit of that chapter was just joke after joke after joke that like escalated and was great. So I really like Chainsaw Man this week. It was fucking hilarious and funny and great, and I love Power. So, and then third is Act Age. I want Act Age's arc to end so I can start giving other things a spotlight. Same with Dr. Stone. This was obviously the last chapter in part 3, so there will be a little bit of a break before we kind of get going to other stuff. So that should probably dip a little bit. Act Age is going to start ramping up again and being great again, so no break from Act Age being phenomenal. But those are my top 3. I enjoyed all of those. I actually enjoyed most of the magazine quite a bit this week. The only ones that I really think were unenjoyable, even Black Clover had stuff I liked. The only chapters I thought were like unenjoyable were, again, the two that I hate. But even then, I thought Gravity Boys wasn't terrible. It just wasn't good. So, yeah. That's really it. That's all I have to say. Like I mentioned earlier, I was in the What the What video for Ishizoku reviewers. If you want to see more about that situation and kind of an actual enlightened take, because even though the video is not out at the time of recording it, I've read the script for it. So, if you want to see an intelligent take about the situation, watch that video. You can check out the rant. If this is your first video of me seeing after that rant, which you probably wouldn't have stuck through all this, you'd be like, oh, I want to see Funny Man yell. And then you get me talking about shonen manga for 2 hours. Actually, it's probably like an hour 30. I don't know how long it is. I've been recording for 2 hours. There's definitely some stuff that I see y'all wanting. There's definitely stuff I see being... So if you're coming from that and you actually sat through this video, thank you. I hope you guys like this. I'm having more videos coming out. I want to have one out by the end of February that's about shonen manga and kind of in this format, but a little bit different, and actually just about one manga that y'all should be looking forward to. But I appreciate any kind of support. Like the video, subscribe if you haven't and you enjoyed it. Follow me on Twitch. I stream sometimes. I'll stream with Craft Store when we talk about Jump and other manga and shit. I want to start streaming more once I kind of get into a better rhythm with some life stuff right now. I have the Weeb Club you should subscribe to. Great podcast I do with my friends What the What and Craft Store. We turn out some really... So I don't want to call out other anime podcasts because I don't listen to all of them, but I've listened to a few anime podcasts. I definitely think we have consistently the most insane and funniest podcast. If you want an idea of how crazy we get, there's a Twitter account, Out of Context Weeb Club. That we don't run, by the way. Someone else runs it. But that Twitter exists, and it posts some of the most wacky clips from the Weeb Club. And you can listen to that and kind of get an idea of how manic we are sometimes while recording. So, subscribe to the Weeb Club. That's really it. Be sure to vote in the poll, actually. Tell me what your favorite chapter of the week was. That's all I can think of. So... bye, guys. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.